The story.
Unknown to me, there was another car coming up from the top of Latrobe Street that had gone onto the wrong side of the road. The car hit me, and I can recall that as my head hit the road, just this tremor went from the top of my head right through my body. But then instantly, I felt I wasn't in Latrobe Street any longer.
G'day, I'm Jimmy Colefax. Welcome to The Story. Well, when Miranda Burness was in her late 20s, everything seemed to be going her way. She had a successful business and was on her way to becoming an international netball umpire. But that all changed when tragedy struck and turned her life upside down. Today, Miranda shares her incredible story as she has a chat with Eric Scatterbo from her home in Ballarat, Victoria.
Miranda Burness, welcome to the program.
Oh, good morning, Eric. Nice to be with you.
Glad to have you with us. And so everything seemed to be going very well at that point in your life. Is that right?
Yes, I thought that everything was perfect. I was very happily married with 3 young children, just built a lovely home, had a very successful business. In those days, we had title searching businesses and settlement law clerks. And I had about 26 law firms as clients and a small bank. And I also loved, and from a very young age, and was very involved in playing netball initially.
Yeah.
And then later on, working towards becoming an international umpire. I really wanted to not only umpire state teams, but also umpire the Australian team. And so I spent many, many evenings at Royal Park in Melbourne in those days, as well as running a family and a business.
Well, we're going to get back to that point in your life, but first let's find out a little bit about your background. Where were you born and raised?
I was actually born initially, and I was 4 years old when I came to Australia. I'm the eldest of 9 children.
So from a strong Italian family?
Oh no, my parents are very modern Italians, so very strong. Mum was only 16 when she got married, and so she was 17 when I was born. And most of the children were all born here, except for myself, my brother, and my young sister.
So, as an Italian family, you were raised in the Catholic Church?
Yes, I was. We attended each week, and also Catholic schools right through.
And at one point, your parents even wanted you to become a nun. Is that right?
Yes, particularly my mother. I would attend retreats, and even our principal, our senior, the nun at school, took us through the convent and everything else, believing that that's where I would hopefully one day, see my life.
Of course, that was not the path you chose. You eventually got married?
Yes, I met my husband. He travelled around Australia because his father was in the Air Force. And when my husband Martin was in Melbourne, when they were stationed in Melbourne, I met Martin at a dinner dance. And from the night that we met, within a few weeks, he proposed, actually. We were engaged within 5 months and then married within 11 months.
And then eventually you had children. And take us to the events that we began talking about. Okay.
I've always had a business background, and I really love the legal profession. And at that time, I initially worked for different lawyers, but then down the track, I ended up having my own searching business. And in those days, before electronic titles and the way it is today, we would do all the searches for different law firms and insurance companies, and the banks would have their own clerks. And so we would all be at the titles office in Melbourne, and we would search all the titles for the law firms, as well as attend settlements on behalf of many of the lawyers. So I was flat out doing that and loved it, actually, really loved it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I loved netball. I played as a schoolgirl. I was our coach was the Australian captain, Wilma Ritchie.
Oh, wow.
And later on, when I was in my early teens, Wilma got me to join a club at Royal Park, and I was under the under-18 coach, Margaret Cross. So I played netball at a fairly high standard. But then down the track, I wasn't really able to, because my background, my father really wasn't keen on me playing at night. I wasn't able to go at night to the stadium. So most of my playing...
Why was that?
At that time, my dad was a little bit old-fashioned and didn't want me going out at night. So so I concentrated on playing on the weekends. Netball has now changed a lot. But I learned, I also umpired, and I played as a young married woman as well. And at the age of 25, I started a netball club, which to the best of my knowledge is still going today.
Oh, wow.
And from two young primary school teams, we grew very quickly to 16 teams. And so my time was spent coaching, and we were involved in both junior and senior netball, the club, very successful club. And I really got very involved with the umpiring side of it and worked my way up to a B umpire. But then there's a big jump between, there's a C, B, and then there's a big jump to an A grade umpire. And a B umpires, B graded umpires in those days, of course, umpired a lot of the big games, but you really needed to go up to A or double A to umpire a state team or an Australian or international game. So I spent many nights and many days umpiring every game I could. And at that time then, I thought everything was perfect.
Now, how many children did you have at this point?
I have 3 children. At this time, there was an 8-year-old girl, a boy who was just on 6, and a little girl who was 4.
Wow, very busy time in your life.
Yes, it was. But it was an exciting time too. It was. We also did in those days attend church because my husband was also a Catholic, and really loved our life. We had a full life. And this particular week, for a few years now, I had been working towards my A grade badge, and so there was a particular night I had to umpire some of the top players in the state, and an international umpire gave me a critique or an assessment.
Oh, wow.
And this was at the stadium at Royal Park. When I finished my critique, the umpire, the international umpire, was very pleased and said that by next week, within a week, I would have my A badge. So I went home elated. I was rapt.
Yeah.
The next day, I went to work, but the next evening, which was a Wednesday night, I was going to a netball meeting. My husband that night stopped me and grabbed me by the arm. He said, "Look, you're going to too many meetings and you're out all the time. Are the children important and myself? Who's more important? Is it the sport or is it us as a family?" Now, I did say to him, "Look, it's only one more week. We're just so close. It's just one more week." And I did go out that night. As soon as I got out the front door, I really felt I had done the wrong thing. But I still went to the meeting that night. Now, the next morning, on the Thursday morning, I had parked my car, as usual, in the Trove Street. But normally what happens in that kind of work, it is so intense and so busy that nobody really leaves their spot at the titles office. But after I parked my car on the Thursday, I felt I couldn't go to work straight away. So I went to a church in Melbourne and I sat in the back seat and I actually repented. And I said, "Lord, I'm so sorry. Of course, my husband and the children are the most important, and I'm just sorry about all of that." And that's where I was that particular day. And I just asked the Lord to help me in my life. And so that was the Thursday. The very next day was the Friday, and Friday with law firms and settlements for properties is so hectic. My briefcase was packed with settlements for the day, not to mention all the searches.
And what year was this?
This was, I think it was 1981. I was around 1981, 1980, 81. I'd have to check, but it was that time. And I parked the car as usual. As I started to walk out Latrobe Street, I started to walk down towards Queen Street, and the lights had changed, and there was 3 lanes of traffic, parked cars, and then 2 lanes of traffic and the tram line. So I just felt, by the time I get down there, they're going to change again. So I decided to cross there because all the cars were stationary, basically. As I crossed between the cars that were already facing a stop sign, unknown to me, there was another car coming up from the top of Latrobe Street that had gone onto the wrong side of the road.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like a flash. It was honestly like a flash. As I turned, I saw this and I thought, oh my gosh. And the thing that did happen, and which amazed me, was I just felt like I was immediately picked up, or I was immediately comforted. I was just the whole lot, my whole body, it just instantly. Now, what happened then was the car hit me. I felt the back of my neck go. I felt my head, my sides, my legs initially, because the car hit me on my right side. I actually felt all my right knee, the whole lot there. But as I was flung, I felt all the time I was being like cushioned. I can't explain it. But I was hit into another vehicle that now was coming the other way, and I ended up underneath the second car. And I can recall that as my head hit the road, just this tremor went from the top of my head right through my body. And now at this time, that's all I felt. But then instantly, I felt I wasn't in Latrobe Street any longer.
You're listening to The Story. Our guest today is Miranda Burness from Ballarat, and as we just heard, she was in a life-changing accident. Next, we're going to hear about an out-of-body experience she had that included a vision of the Lord that has had a lasting impact on her life. All that and more is coming up when we return.